Okay, Joanna, really appreciate you joining me today. So you on
Thank
this
you
is
for
your
invite.
kind of no problem. This is your like social media bio, which is you're an equestrian coach specializing in horse psychology. You're an author, massive congratulations, to a book called Understanding Horse Depression, which we are definitely going to deep dive today on this episode because this is not only fascinating for me personally, but I get asked a lot of questions from people saying, is my horse depressed? Like I feel they're depressed, but is that a human term? And so I know we can definitely talk more about this and give the listeners some clarity. And then I found you because of your amazing website, which is called Horses Explained. I love the title. And there's one part of it which really resonated, which is you talk about the horse's mental health and why it matters. But I love this saying. You say training without emotional wellness is like buying a saddle that doesn't fit. So it's causing that invisible harm. And just for a moment, I'd like everyone just to pause and just reflect on that alone because that is so hard hitting, but really kind of, I feel, sums up what you're trying to say. You know, it's the invisibility stuff that we don't see and we maybe overlook every day with our horse's mental health that you brilliantly have the answers for. So looking forward to this. But before we
Thank
get into
you.
the book, before we get into the book, can you share what first led you to explore this topic of horse depression? Is there like a particular horse or moment in your life where you were like, this is it?
This is it. I think that my whole life lead to this moment, and probably this moment will lead to many more different ones for me, because I grew up in a family-owned barn. So I was surrounded by horses since I can remember, and taking, part in the daily life, in their schedule, in riding, in all the maintenance, in management. Then I moved to working at the sport and breeding stable, and then I moved to coaching with my career. And in that time, more and more I was going on that path. I saw so many discrepancies between what people are saying, what I read in the book, what I learned from my peers, and what is actually happening in the barns themselves. Especially that became very vivid for me when I started coaching at the big barns, when I had to use school horses for my lessons. So I think that hit me the most, because when you're teaching in a big barn and you have like 20 school ponies and horses to choose from for your students, you feel like you don't have a voice. Because even if you notice that something is wrong with the horse that you have to use for your lesson, you're not really in a position when you can change his reality. So those horses are usually dependable, reliable, calm for beginner riders. But then you're like wondering, it's like, doesn't seem right. This horse should be like curious, playful, or he should get angry sometimes at something, right? Because everybody has emotions and horses do have emotions too. So the fact that I was not able to change that or have input, and I really loved coaching and loved teaching, but I felt that I'm like working against my values there because I have to use the horses that I see that are not fully there. And this is like kind of breaking moment for me because I stopped teaching for a few years because I didn't want to go still on a path that it was against myself. I felt a very big need to put my knowledge, to put my experience, to put my passion in the work, but the ways that I was doing it was not fulfilling at all because of the state of the horses. And sometimes it was small physical pain, sometimes a little bigger. I saw that saddle is not fitting. I saw that one horse is used too much, that the horse is not getting enough food. Those little things, if you think about it, when you put them in a big pile of daily life of each horse, they are very depressing. So for me, I was feeling hopeless. along with those horses. And this is when I stopped teaching for a few years. And during this time, I still felt that I want to do something. So what I did, I started learning, I started reading, I started looking at the different researches and just getting as much information as I could. So if I will decide to teach again, I actually will have a baseline and foundation of what is happening and how to express the things that I can deeply feel, but I don't know yet how to communicate those or what would be the fix. So I focused on that. And the next thing that I noticed at that time, that was like 2 years back, and it's still going on, when you will see most of the Instagram accounts, most of the YouTube videos and other medias, everybody's focusing on HYH level horses. That conversation about the bits, spurs, neglect, or forcing horse into position, it's huge. And it's good that it's there because we need to push back against the rules, corruption, and everything else that is happening on those levels. But the thing is how we can impact the horses next to us. Because us speaking and yelling about federations and rule books will not give our horses in our barns, in our schools, in our backyards, the peace of mind, you know? So I decided that instead of being with the crowd and yelling, hey, double bits or spurs or, you know, all those things, I'm like, let's look at ourselves. Let's look at the school horses. Let's look at the private horses, at the boarding facilities, and the places that we actually do want to enjoy the horses, and we do want horses to have a better life. So to answer your question, I decided that the change is within us, individuality, to make sure that we are giving a good example. And go from there. And to be honest, hope for the best, and see if people will hear us and be as loud as we can, but on the things that we can control, not on the things only that we want to change.
That is so true. And if we take it all back, like even the Olympic level, FEI, whatever level, we all started somewhere. And most of us started, I mean, I started in South Africa, my first pony, bareback riding, falling off every day, but learning how to ride. But you're right, we all started at that level, and we all started with our first riding lesson. You know,
Exactly.
so many kids nowadays wanting to start with horses, and it's those horses that I agree. I'm sure people listening here today would agree when you go into some riding schools, not all, because some are changing and are a little bit more understanding of these needs, which I know you can talk about. But we've all started there, and we've all probably had that feeling if we look back at on those years going, oh my God, I don't think that horse was happy. I think he was doing the job, but he wasn't actually a horse with a personality. He didn't seem like he had a personality. He just seemed very like nothing was there, which
Yeah.
is heartbreaking looking back now. So definitely, no matter where they are, I agree, starting with the people closest to you, and you hit a very important point, which is close to my heart, which is actually working on yourself first. You mentioned about, again, I love these two, this statement, which is a healthy body but a broken spirit. So how can the listeners here today, your everyday owner who loves their horse, how can they actually tell if their horse is depressed? Because many people assume depressed is a human term. So this has been proven to be a horse term as well.
Yes, that's correct. In 2012, there was a study by people from France. It was Céline Furix and Martin Hausberger. They made a study on the school horses, and they just asked the question, is this horse calm, lazy, or is he depressed? So they took the school horses and checked their reaction to the surroundings and came with the conclusion that their state of mind is not as regular horses should be. And to put that in a perspective, we have to start from the very, very basics. So not from the depression, that it's like different state of mind and spirit of the horse, but what is actually natural and normal for the horse. So we have to look at his ethogram. And ethogram is like a catalog of a normal horse behavior. It was written by Sue McDonald, and it's a holy grail, to be honest, because you have every possible normal horse behavior in this catalog with the picture, with the description, different ways of saying what horse is doing and what kind of state of mind is he in and why he's doing this thing. So horse equine it's called actually equine ethogram because it has zebras and donkeys also. So not just horses. So that is the starting point. If we will see what is normal behavior for horses, they are very curious, they are very social, most of them, they are very, very playful, especially at the young age. And then we will compare those normal behaviors to the horses that we are concerned about. We can start seeing those red flags. But to see what is actually wrong, we have to know what is right. So we are not guessing, we are not assuming, because this is where the personality of the horse himself kicks in also, because there's no one type of the horse. Everybody is different. We have species specific behaviors, but it doesn't mean they are showing exactly the same way in everybody. Some horses are more fiery, some are more lazy and laid back, some are mentally fragile. You have the whole spectrum of different temperaments and personalities and traits and learned behaviors on top of that you have to dig through to see those little signs of depression, which unfortunately are very, very small and subtle. So if you don't know what healthy horse should behave like, and you don't know what is the horse in front of you, you're not able to give him a proper care and give him all the things that he needs. So there's a lot of misconceptions coming from that and thinking that, oh, this horse is depressed, but actually he's like a phlegmatic type of horse, who is just enjoying being himself. So that is the thing that you have to pay attention when you're talking with the people and when you're advising, yeah, this horse looks dull, but you cannot say that if you never met the horse, if you don't know his traits and his living condition.
This is interesting. So it's before we even think about the depression in the horse, which can be subjective, we actually have to go one step back and understand our horse's personality, which again, I've never met anyone that can do a personality profile or a portrait on a horse. So do you want to tell us how you got started into that and what it is? Because so many of us know, even though we're maybe too afraid to say it, but we have owned different horses and they are totally different personalities.
Exactly. There's no two exactly the same horses. You can see patterns, and patterns are basically what I map. I'm using the big five, which are personality traits, come from psychology. I'm using the temperament traits as well, because temperament and personality are two different things. Temperament is what is in our genetics and in genetics of horses. It's not dependable on the environment, and somebody is getting to this world with temperament. So you will see that warm bloods have a different temperament than the draft horses, right? It comes from the genetics. And on top of that, we go to personality, which is shaped by the environment and stress and all the management that horse is getting through his life and experiences.
Gosh, I didn't know that. I thought it would have been the other way around. Like the temperament is kind of what's the word I'm looking for, molded by the environment, but it's actually the personality. So is that the same in humans?
Same. Yes, it's exactly the same with humans. I do believe so. However, don't quote me on that because I'm not fluent in human traits, more so in horses. So
I'm thinking when people say to me, oh, you can't change someone's personality, and I'm thinking, well, maybe we can change the personality, just change the environment.
yeah, we can little bit mold it. We cannot like totally change it. So the horse who has a personality, it's very open to a new experiences, for example, likes looking at the things, even if he's terrified, there's a tarp, there is a bucket, there's something, and you can see that he's like all curious and wants to go, little bit afraid, but still goes. And then you have a second horse with the low openness to new experiences, and he will look at the tarp and he's like, I'm out of here, like I don't even want to look at this. So those are semi stable traits. However, through training and management, you can influence them, so you can like kind of adjust them and help the horse find the balance. So you're not changing the personality of the horse, but you can definitely work with it. And this is opposite to temperament. When temperament, you cannot change at all. There's nothing you can do. This is how horse came to this world. And this is horse in front of us that we are dealing with. The only thing that you can change is that personality of the horse.
So can you give us some examples of different temperaments, just so we can go, oh, I have one.
Okay, so there are four main temperaments. There's sanguine, choleric, there's melancholic, and phlegmatic. So those are four archetypes. They come from the ancient Greece, and they've been used in the ancient Greece as a medical, spectrum. However, through the years, they didn't disappear because they still carry those old truths about humans, horses, and most living beings, and their look at the world and how they perceive the world. So, for example, choleric horse will be fiery, will have that spark, will have that go. And the melancholic horse, he will be more maybe introverted, more cautious, more careful, harder to get to train, to give up as a partner, but super loyal when you get that.
Like a man.
So
That's what we want as a partner for ourselves. We would like the same thing.
yes, and so that matters because you will not train or keep the horse who is fiery and needs action and needs puzzles and needs like challenge the same way as a melancholic horse who needs patience and empathy and slowness and repetition. So those are totally two different temperaments. And again, we cannot change that, but we have to work with that. So this is how slowly I molded the idea of horse personality portraits, because I was working with horses all my life. And you're the lifelong equestrian as well. So you know that sometimes when we work with the horses, it takes us a little bit to get to know them, but you cannot express it why I'm working like that with this horse. It was very hard for me to explain why I train one horse this way and the other horse the other way. It's like, hey, you should have one training method that works everybody. If you will see again online, it's like, my training method is the best. And I'm like, for which type of horse? Because It's a big, big spectrum. And those are only 4 types. And on top of that, you have a big 5, which is 5 personality traits. And on top of that, you have like that equithygram. And Sue McDonald even said that there's no same horse. They do have the same behaviors, but there's no 2 identical horses. So this is something proven by science and proven by psychology. I think it's a little bit complicated to grasp for average horse owner, because nobody gonna to read about those and learn how to like map those and see what else we need to do. Like, you know, for example, horses that are more stoic, they will hide more pain than the horses that are less stoic. So you have to have all those informations to be able actually to map the horse and, hey, this is why he's behaving like that. It's not that he's naughty. It's not that he's disrespectful. It's just because of his nature. So if you want to train this horse, you have to adjust to his personality, to his needs, because you're the smarter person here, and you have to adjust, not adjust horse to our expectations.
Yeah, that is extremely powerful. And it leads on to the next question, which is what I wrote down is, do you think many horses have ended up labeled as difficult or even, you know, lame simply because they're just misunderstood?
95% of them,
Yeah.
I would say. Because, of course, there are horses that are, you know, coming here with some brain damage or got a little bit choked during the birth and they don't got enough oxygen in their brain, so it didn't develop. So of course you will get, like with everybody else, with the human dogs, cats, you will get weirdos. I don't know if that's a good way to say it, but there are of course some cases that you cannot work through, but in those cases you will see it through the whole life of the horse, from the fall to the very end. If you get a horse and you're starting working with him and everything seems fine, and then he snaps, that's your fault, not the horse's fault. Because horse probably was trying to tell you many, many times before he snapped what he needs and how he needs, or that he doesn't understand what you want from him, simply. And then you will keep pushing and pushing and pushing your method. And the horse is like, I'm done. Like, I'm done. So he cannot organize it in his head. He cannot cope. He cannot adapt to it, even that he tried. And this is where the problem horses comes from, the horses that are labeled dangerous. Aggression and the fear are very closely linked in the brain chemistry. They are coming from the same pretty much source in the brain. So usually aggression is the expression of the fear that horse is holding, but he doesn't know how to protect himself. So he goes to biting, kicking, and being annoying horse that is disrespectful, because he doesn't know what he can do anymore. You know, he hit the wall, and this is the only way that he can find himself safe. Because what horses need, like basic horses need, it's a food, constant access to the hay, straw, forage, grass. It's a free movement. So they have to have possibility of moving even on a slow pace, but for many, many hours a day. This is in their DNA. Next thing is friends. So horse without access to body, to a friend that he can groom with and he can have play dates with, and he can like see next to his stall. Horse who is deprived of that, well, that's like one of the main causes of the depression here. Next is rest. So safe and comfortable place to rest and lie down and be able to actually lie down to sleep, to have that REM phase of the sleep, which is very short for horses, like around 20 minutes. but they still need that 20 minutes lying down. And this brings me to the final one, which is safety. And every horse needs to feel safe. In the moment when they don't feel safe, they start acting up. And safety is basically not having a safety is depriving the horses from any of those needs that I just said. So horse who's, for example, feed only twice a day hay and stands in on the wood shavings, so he cannot actually nip on the straw, he will be permanently hungry for most of the day and most of the night. And for him, that's taking his safety away. He feels unsafe, he feels unsettled, he feels hungry. On top of that, because he's locked in a stall, he cannot do what he would normally do. He cannot go and look for it. Because if vegetation is low in the free roaming horses, they are getting hungry, but they can go and find the new food sources. When we are managing horses, we are responsible of what we give them, and we have to know what they need to be able to provide for them. And that gives them that safety and comfort and feel good feeling. And then training is just a formality.
There's a few things you said then. One of the actually really relatable things that you have said is, and I've probably come across 4 cases this year which have not ended in a nice way. But I'll give you an example where the first one would be a show jumper who has been in the same barn competing at a high level for about, I'd say, 6 years of his life. So he's now about 12 years old. And then he stops doing his job because who knows, maybe there's a drop in their performance, the rider has more competitive demands, pressures from owners, so the horse is sold. And sold to someone who doesn't want to compete, but wants to maybe just have fun, have the few dressage lessons. And then I've seen this pattern where within about 4 to 6 weeks, obviously everything's changed besides the environment, but the owners are trying to improve the way of going because most of these show jumpers have been ridden in a way where it's not enough schooling, not enough rest, not enough time, but they have been performing at that level. And then they switch environments, they switch training to something very low key, what we would say, with not much pressure. And as you said, the horse switches. Suddenly, it's lame. Suddenly, it can't be ridden. Suddenly, it starts head shaking. All of this, everything, it's like a whole new horse in front of you. So I approach it from a body worker perspective because that's when I normally get called. What's going on? Past the vetting, it's now lame. What can you do? But I would love to know your interpretation from the psychology perspective because it's so unique what you do.
So I would say that every time we are changing environment for a horse, it's a big, big mental strain on him. And if it comes to physical symptoms, they could have might as well been gentle symptoms when the horse was working before, but they were just ignored. Somebody with the lighter hand brought the horse and they just started noticing those things. So it doesn't mean that those things haven't happened before. It just means that somebody was able to notice them. That's the one thing. Second thing, possibility, that the change of horse environment, taking him from his home, from his friends, changing his diet, puts so much stress on the body, and stress attacks the immune system, and therefore your body slowly collapses. Mm. So that can be option as well. And yeah, we do see a lot of horses that are changing with the house, sometimes for better, sometimes for worse. But I think the most important thing is, again, to know his needs, to know himself, and then work with that and see what is happening. Because maybe that lameness was creeping out for the last 4 years on this horse. And now when he got a little bit breath, it showed up. Or he was very stoic. He was not showing the pain. And when he felt comfortable and found his person, he was brave enough to, hey, this hurts. Because he was like, oh, I'm not getting punished for head shaking. Because before, when I shake my head, that means the tighter noseband and some crop and who knows what else. Now that nice person allows me to show, so I will show. And I think that those things are actually very, very good things at the end of the day, because that is horse talking to us. And we usually dismiss it like, yeah, head shaking, oh my gosh, or tail swiveling, or bucking. Oh my gosh, this horse is bucking. But why? Why? Horses don't want to use any more energy that they should. They are always keeping that energy low, just in case the predator will come and they will have to use it. So they will not buck and do the head shaking if there's literally no need for that, except of sometimes too much energy. But those, a lot of people can just notice right away when it's like a lot of energy versus just the annoying buck. That's kind of a little bit different feeling there.
Yeah, and it's again, there's so many variables involved with that example, but it's interesting to know with the personality or the temperament types, also bringing that to the conversation today. I was like, oh yeah, that's another part that I was never told, and this is the first time I'm hearing about, and I'm sure some of the listeners are also going, wow, we've never, we know personalities, but maybe not the temperament. So on that
So
question, sorry.
sorry, I will interrupt. So to give like example of that, you have a horse who is refusing to jump, and you know that he's everything is good physically with him. His saddle is fine. There's no weirdness in the arena. Everything is good, but he's still refusing to jump. And you will train differently that horse who is refusing to jump because he has anxiety and he's scared of that jump. And you will train differently the horse who is phlegmatic with the, low state of work ethic. Those are totally two different reasons in the healthy body horse. And those two different things needs two different approaches from the trainer. So noticing if that refusal is because horse is anxious, or it's his personality trait that he just doesn't have a good work ethic or a heart to it. And there's even a study that was taking horses in the different disciplines. So like dressage, eventing, jumping, and I think assisted learning too. And they were checking their personalities and temperaments. And what happened that they noticed that the different horses used to the different disciplines, they are developing different personality traits and different skills, mental skills. So sometimes switching a horse from jumping to dressage can take a big strain on his mental health, just because he doesn't understand what we want from him anymore, because he was trained one way and now, hey, wait, this is different. And if we are not patient enough to be able to show the horse that way, and we will just like, hey, you know how to bend, you were doing like, shows, so you should know how to bend, you're flexible. But he doesn't understand the concept of bending that we want to impose on him. So we have to always kind of step back, ask why, and just often wait and see, ask questions.
Yeah, I was laughing because it's again bringing back so many case studies, but also just recent conversations with people as well. And we all, as humans, get stuck in our head and we look at things from our perspective. That's not our fault, but we're almost we need to remember on a daily basis. It's like we need a sticky note stuck on our phone that we look at, I don't know how many times a day, to stop and look at the horses and try and think what they might be going through. And this leads on to the question I was thinking about, which is we've got the horses, now the riders, because there's two nervous systems working together, and these two nervous systems or these two beings have different temperaments, personalities. And we've all said this, there's that old saying of horses for courses, but sometimes people have to also admit that they might not have the right horse, or might not be the right person for their horse. And it's a very subjective way I'm saying it, but I'm sure you have some research behind it, as I'm sure humans from their psychology perspective will also know there's different traits. So I read that you can also do rider and horse combination. So, I mean, how do you do this?
So I'm doing it basically the whole process of doing horse personality portrait and the rider match is I'm not guessing. I'm sending to a person questionnaire. It's a detailed questionnaire, and it's based on ethogram of a big five, of a temperament, of the studies. And based on answers that somebody gives me, then I can map the horse and the riders and see their compatibilities. Because you cannot just assume. Sometimes you have to ask questions. So the questions that I'm giving to people are very, I think, easy questions, because those are things from their daily life. So, for example, if the horse is left alone in an arena, does he calls for other horses? That's one of the questions. And there's, I think, around 100 of those questions, and they give me the view of what's happening and how we should work with that horse, what are his coping mechanisms, how he learns, how he will show his pain, what is the best training and enrichment method. And then riders come along, because I'm sure you saw it many, many times that somebody's going to tack up the horse. He's so nervous, and the horse is even more nervous before he will even have a saddle on him, because they are picking up on our emotions. And I think that's a beautiful thing, because this is what makes us love them so much, because we know that they resonate with us and they feel with us, and we can feel it. We know it. It's not a mystery about unicorns and Pegasus. It's actually a fact that horse picks up on the emotions, on tensions, on vibration. They can smell your sweat. And fun fact, sweat, different types of sweat can smell differently. So sweat from stress smells different than the sweat from the hot weather. And they can pick up on that. So if we will go to the model when human is the stable constant in the horse's life. And I don't like to say it, and this is, I think this would be a different podcast conversation about the leadership in this relationship, because in my opinion, it's a partnership, not leadership. But let's stay with the most common, most common way of understanding the relationship. Which is horses should look in us for safety, for trust, for support. So when we are nervous and we have to tack up the horse who's melancholic, that will not fly. You will do it, but both of you will be stressed, and probably for half a lesson you will still continue. If you will have a good coach, you will end up on a good note and chill. But you will not start chill. And the starting point should be ease. So I'm not assessing human personality. I'm not schooled in that. I'm just assessing the stress level and the comforts of the person, of the rider, and making sure that he knows that his anxiety or overconfidence in the ego actually affects how his horse perceives him and how he needs to adjust that or just be aware of that to be able to work with that horse. And sometimes it might happen that it will just not click. And in this case, it's better to let go.
You said something which I was like, oh, I need to go back on that. You said part of your I think it's the horse questions. You said you'd be able to help people understand how their horses show pain. That I'm like, every horse owner should have a manual on that, because that's the biggest thing that a therapist, we're always helping with these restrictions or these changes in patterns. But personally, I'm always looking at behavior, and I'm always assessing and asking before I physically do anything to a horse. But I'm always asking myself is, how does this horse showing pain that the owners now has realized is impacting performance? But it's like, that's golden. Can you give us some insight to that without giving away your magic? But can you give us some idea?
So the idea is, to be honest, very simple. You have to know the horse in front of you to know how he expressed the pain. And again, you have to know the horse ethogram, which is their natural behaviors, to know how the pain shows. So those are those two main things that you have to be at least aware how they show up in your horse to be able to assess how your horse might show pain. And sometimes it's behavioral, because sometimes he will stop playing so much with other horses. Sometimes he will just still eat, but you will see that he's kind of like not into that grain anymore. So he's still eating, he's still doing his job, he still goes to the pasture, but you can notice those small changes in his behavior that should put the big red flag, above your head, and want to ask why and investigate it and see if something changed, then check for pain and check for other possibilities that might cause this horse distress. Because if horse is not behaving as he's supposed to be as a species, that means that there's like mental trauma or physical trauma. So the best way, know your horse, know what is normal for him, know what's normal for all the horses species, and that's the baseline of knowing how your horse will show the pain. So you are expert for your own horse, and then you can communicate that. And I understand that this is not something easy. Again, people will not go and not study those things right now. That's why I'm like, okay, I will study them for them. I want to help. Because again, going back to those school horses, I didn't know how to help. I know that I'm working against me. I know that there's something wrong. I know that like it doesn't go anywhere with what I really, really want to do. So I started to look for ways that I can help myself and the horses to be happy at the end of the day. Because this is why we have horses, because we want to coexist with them and have pleasure for being with them. But to do so, there's two of us. So the horse have to be happy and content also, because if not, we are just the despots at the end of the day. Happy despots of our beautiful horse with the 5 blankets that it's fed twice a day and depressed.
Well
and we
said.
just don't know about it. So again, it's not about that people, it's not about humans that are being vicious and evil. It's a lack of understanding and education and repeating misconceptions and not looking deeper in the problem and just waving head at it. It's like, yeah, it will go away.
There is a big shift in the industry, I feel, the last 2 years, and which is good, but it's also
Yes.
the lack of a science. And I'm glad to hear that there is more science coming, and the work that you do, I no idea about it. I've been with horses a long time, so it's exciting that the shift is happening. And it's good, it's amazing to have experts like you who are so dedicated to not giving up and giving it your best. I had a question about your horse because you have a horse.
Yes,
So
yes. I'm
can you,
taking care of Ella right now. She's a 18-year-old Oldenburg.
oh, okay. So tell us how you guys met and now the knowledge that you know, like how is your journey progressing?
It's so funny that you ask that because I think she is very, very big influence on what I'm doing. Um, and she's that palatable, touchable thing that I can show to people how my methods actually work. And this is not, again, like hoo-ha, like, oh, okay, unicorns and Pegasus, and let's go and run to the sunset. Because when you're starting to talk about horse mental health and needs, lots of people dismiss you. There's a big shift, there is, but I think we still need to push and still have those conversations to be able to get to the wider audience. So with Ella, she was out of the work for about 2 years, except of occasional trail rides with her owner. He's an elderly person, so that's the reason why I stepped in. But nobody was able to ride this horse. She had a label of dangerous, unpredictable. In the stall setting, she was fine unless you were feeding her, very protective of the food. So you were like in and out, pretty much. You got into her stall and she's gone, and she wants, you could see that she wants to connect, but she so overwhelmed with her feelings that she didn't know what to do with herself. Um, Under the saddle, I was told, I never seen that myself, but I was told that she backed off many, many people. She reared without any warning, without any reason to the people who were viewing this or riders. And I'm like, I saw this horse in the barn and I'm like, can I start working with her like full time? I just asked. And this is how our story began. And now I ride on her bareback. And it's a pretty, pretty wonderful partnership.
That's incredible. How did you first start with her? You obviously had this internal need to be like, I'll do it. I want to work with her. What was it and how did you start?
So the reason why I wanted to do it, it was, to be honest, the way that she was looking at me. I don't have a better explanation why I chose her, because I'm over 40, so the thrill of riding the horses who are considered dangerous is I'm past that. Like that was in my 20s. I don't enjoy like getting like uncoordinated dismount of the horse. So definitely that was not something that I wanted, but the way that she was looking at me. And I get to know her and I'm like, there's something there's something there, and it's not just like beauty and it's just like pretty horse. I'm like, nah, there's more. So I cannot explain you better. It was just my feeling, just a hinge, just a, I don't know, love, maybe, probably for sure now. But then maybe it was just a little bit tease of the feeling. So what I started when I asked if I can take care of her and work with her, everybody in the barn was like, good luck. Or start telling me stories from her past. Or are you sure? A lot of people thought that probably I'm crazy. But I'm like, this is what I want to do. So how I started with just being with her. And for a first month, I didn't sit on her. I didn't put the piece of tack on her. I was just taking her on the walks in hand and hanging out in her stall, taking her for just like little walks so she can like nib on things, nib on a tree, look at the birds, like very maybe picturesque, poetic setting. But that was my goal. When she was fine with that, then I'm like, okay, let's go a little bit farther to the trail when there's like bikes and people and things. When we got past that, I'm like, okay, I think we have something going on here. And it was like over a month. So I think I will start getting on you. And first thing I did, I called the saddle fitter and asked to fit the saddle. That was the very first thing before I even put myself. So people are like, you're investing in the horse, that it's dangerous, that it will probably kill you or put you to the hospital if you're lucky. And you're getting the saddle fitter before you even know if you can ride her. So, you know, this is like a little bit contradictory with what we are used to. But I'm like, yes, because if she feels that I'm hurting her in any ways, which can be through bad fitting saddle, that it will be my fault that she bucked me off, not hers, because she's just protecting herself. So I took all those things that I saw that I can improve and improve them. Change her feeding schedule, turnout schedule, little quirks here and there. And then, yeah, after a month and a half, maybe 2 months, I was on and I was just walking. Again, next month, I didn't want anything from her. No bending, no collection, no circle. I was just like a kid on the horse, just letting her sometimes decide. Like, I think that's a very important thing too with the horses, to give them a little bit feeling that their voice matter too. And I'm not saying just getting them feral and loose and do whatever they want, but if you're going on a trail ride and you don't care if you go left or right on the fork, let them choose. And this gives that little bit moments like, oh, I'm independent. Like I was hurt. I wanted to go this way and I was allowed to, you know, or I was showing something and my human actually saw it and adjusted it or changed it. So I think the biggest process for me and Ella was me gaining her trust and me showing her that whatever will happen, I will not start blaming her, but I will look for solutions. You know, some solutions were quick, some took me a month, maybe a year. But eventually, by asking question why things are happening, I was able to dig very deep into our relationship, because now we do have a relationship. And I do believe that both of us are enjoying our company. And I think that's the most beautiful thing. So me writing her, it wasn't about proving the point. It was about the love from the first sight and knowing that I do have empathy and knowledge and experience to be able to overcome her mental shutdown and show her that we can work differently in a way that fits her. But the way that fits her doesn't mean it will fit different horse. So again, it's good to look at those things, but every horse is different and we have to work with horses as they show what they need.
What's her temperament type?
She's a melancholic choleric. She's a blend. Like most of horses are blends. So she's mainly melancholic, but she has the choleric traits. So very fragile, very sensitive, very attuned, but can be fiery. And when she will get overwhelmed, she will start spinning, spinning, spinning without the way out. So my whole work is about holding her below that threshold of explosiveness, you know, not letting go there, because it's not about always like fixing what it's showing. It's like, not just going there. Sometimes that's the fix. And then that threshold actually grows and grows and grows when you're doing small steps, little by little, just stretching it, but never going on the other side.
So true. And it reminds me of a conference I went to with a very well-known like performer in the horse world. And he was saying that he was explaining his different horses' temperaments. And he was saying that one of so his two like main acts, if you want to call them that, he said, this guy, he's only got one performance in him, and then he just cannot be asked. He's just like, I've given you my all, right? But I'm done. And he said, then the other one sounds a bit like your mare, who will be like a fireball, will give you everything and come across almost a bit like dangerous on screen, but he's just got so much energy to give. And he said, we asked how he trains them both. And it's very similar to what you said. He said the art of his training is not to push his horses into what they want to, that overstate of give me your all every day. He obviously recognizes what you said, that horses by nature don't want to do that. They want to save their energy. So he said with the one that gives him the one performance a day, he said, I select my performances very carefully, and at home he does none of this. He does none of it, and they have that respect for each other. But he said the other one who wants to give him so much, he said his training is all about keeping him very low. Keeping him very low and almost not doing the opposite of what he wants to do, but just strengthening his, I suppose we all have those types in us. I don't know what the word is, but I can do this where sometimes I get really overexcited to start something and I'm like, yeah, let's go. And if sometimes I need someone to say, Nika, slow down, breathe, let's just do one thing, and then you have energy for the rest. And that's almost what he was saying in my interpretation. And I thought it is such a beautiful way of describing how to train horses. One guy, different approaches depending on his horse in front of him. And it's so nice to hear you saying something so similar. But yeah, I thought I would share that because I was like, when he was talking about it, I thought that is so self-aware, and also what a fantastic partner for his four-legged friends, that he understands, okay, I'm going to respect what you want to do and not put more pressure on you to get more out of you. I know that that one performance you're going to give me is going to be so phenomenal. I'm going to respect you for that and step away. That's fine. No matter how much money, no matter what people want you to do, that's what you are happy to do, and I'm good with that.
Exactly. That's a very good coach, very good trainer, because he recognized the individual horse's needs and then went with that. And then it reminds me of the story of my friend. She went to the clinic show. So it was like 1 or 2 day event when you had the different clinics from the different coaches, from the different trainers. And most of them brought their own horses and were explaining behaviors or what to do if. And then she came to me after looking at all those people and she's like, hey, I have a question, because one trainer said if my horse is spooking at something in the corner, I should stop him and face towards. The other coach said that I should like never stop, but keep pushing the horse towards that spook. The third one said to just like distract the horse and do the circle. The fourth one had like totally different approach, and on and on and on. And I'm like, yes, all valid and all wrong, because it all depends on your horse and why your horse is spooking, and if it's something scary or is his personality trait, and how to work with that. So again, what you say, that you had like the trainer recognize the coach and show the different approaches for 2 different horses. And in my story, it's like many trainers, everybody had a different approach and left the person who wanted to learn like with so much confusion in the head, because all those people we're saying different things. And how are you going to choose what to do with your horse, right?
I pretty much am sold from this conversation that all of us, everyone that owns a horse who wants to work with horses needs to contact you and get involved and understand A, if they have a horse, what kind of horse they have in front of them, and B, who they are, what type they are as
Yes.
well. So 100%. I know that we've gone over an hour, but I just have a final question for you, which is, what's one lesson a horse has taught you that you couldn't have learned anywhere else?
One lesson. There were so many of them. But the most important thing, I think, with any horse, with any temperament, any personality, is patience and empathy. Those are the two traits that every horse owner or equestrian should learn. How to be patient and have empathy to see the horse in front of you. And when you have those two things, the rest will follow.
So beautifully said. Thank you so much for joining me. I will put all of your links so people can find you in the description below.
Thank you so much, Nika. It was like truly, truly pleasure.
Yeah, definitely. And also, we need to put a link into your book, which is being hopefully released next year. Do you want to tell us about the release date?
Yes, so the book is right now in editorial state and it will be released in the spring 2026.
Okay.
So soon-ish. We have a half a year.
Pre-orders
But
will be in.
yes, so looking forward, and it will be printed in the States, but it will be available worldwide.
Really can't wait, and I will put this in the link as well. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Nika. Have a great day.